I think it's incredible that the USGA is creating a national team.
Golf can open up so many doors beyond the professional ranks.
This could be such a big boost for our amateur program.
USGA creating this developmental team, it's really taking down the barriers of financial hardships and providing a pathway and success to show what American talent is, junior golf to amateur golf, through college all the way to the pro level.
Virtually every country in the world develops, fosters, and assists their young talent to make it to the next level. The only country not doing that in a unified way is here in America. American Pipeline depends on us being committed to their growth, and starting today, we've never been more committed.
You know, I grew up playing in the national team. It was a goal, an inspiration.
Is really an opportunity for us to ensure that the future generations of American golf talent are nurtured, are trained, are supported.
We continuously make little strides forward. We're going to see amazing results in the future.
As we welcome you into the Fairways of Life show, that video that you just watched was sent to us by the USGA. The U.S. National Development Program is one of the areas that we will be discussing today, because I'm super excited about today's show and today's guests, because we're going to be joined by Mike Whan. Mike Whan is the CEO of the United States Golf Association. We have a lot of different things to discuss with him. The USGA's objective, quite simply, and I quote, champion and advance the game of golf. Now, that includes conducting global championships, delivering golfer engagement programs, broadening accessibility, and, of course, driving sustainability as chief objectives of the organization. The USGA touches everybody that plays the game. Every single one of you that are watching the program today have in some way been impacted by decisions that are made by the United States Golf Association. Everyone looks at the big stuff. I get it, where the glory is with the national championships, particularly with the women's U.S. Open and the men's U.S. Open. But when you get down to it, with any of you, with all of you, you will be impacted by the USGA. And the man at the top of the USGA, as I mentioned, was Mike Whan, who I'm super excited about. He started his career in corporate marketing. He was VP and GM of Wilson Sporting Goods. He went on to executive positions with TaylorMade as well. And he's taking the time to join us today and go through some of the initiatives of the USGA, again, to that theme of how it impacts everybody. Mike, welcome to the show. It's great to see you. How you keeping?
Hey, Matt, how you been? It's been a while. I think COVID got in the way of a pretty good friendship, but I'm glad to see your face.
It's good to see you too. So from what I hear, you had media day at Pinehurst yesterday, and the rumors that I'm hearing is that you had a chance to play number 2. How was it?
Oh, I didn't want to play, but it was media day, so I figured, what the heck. But,
Yeah.
No, it was great. I was sitting doing an interview at 12:55, and one of my communications people come up and tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, "Look out that window right there. Do you see that?" And I said, "Yeah, that's the first tee." And she said, "You're on the first tee at 1:01. It's currently 12:55. So I was that guy changing clothes in the parking lot. Sorry, Tom Pashley and Bob Dedman, and running to the first tee. My warm-up consisted of a 100-yard jog and two a leave on the first tee, but it was spectacular. It's going to be spectacular. It's our home now. I'm sitting in Golf House Pinehurst, where many of our employees sit. The World Golf Hall of Fame is next to me, USGA Experience below that. So I said this yesterday in media day. This is the only championship when I land in an airport and don't put in ways how to get there. I've been coming to Pinehurst quite a bit in my first 3 years, and when we pull in here, it feels like home, and now quite literally it is home.
I expect that the golf course is already in absolutely pristine condition. Are you guys happy with where it is right now in preparation for the national championship in terms of density and speed, et cetera?
Speed, not yet. We wouldn't want it to be a championship speed this far out, but yeah, it had a great. It came through winter great. They've had a hot spring. These greens and fairways like the heat, and so yeah, it's our ability to make this firm and fast. We've planted probably more wiregrass than the state of North Carolina had. We probably had to go outside the state for some of that, but it's going to be a special test. As you know, the real Pinehurst gets interesting on your approach shot. And if you miss the greens, you change the word interesting to probably some other words. And I experienced all of those emotions yesterday.
I guess this question is risking a celebration of the obvious, but how is it and why is it, Mike, that Pinehurst is so important to the ethos of golf in the United States?
Well, it's it's quite literally a home base for U.S. golf. If you stand on the back patio of number 2 any day, I don't care if it's a Saturday or a Tuesday, and you look across from the first tee of number 2 to the driving range to the huge putting facility to the cradle right next to it, or the first tee on number 4, you see Americana. You see old, young, professional, amateur, people of color, women. It's really, especially now, with what's happening in our game, this is the picture of it. And so this is really where the game is happening. This is where people pilgrimage to come. I'm really excited about over 1 million people a year are going to walk right by our building and the World Golf Hall of Fame and USGA Experience to walk onto this facility. So this is a place that deserves to be celebrated. And the good news is, between us and Pinehurst, with our anchor site agreement, we won't just be coming here for U.S. Opens. We won't just be coming here for women's Opens. We'll be coming here for amateur events, and we started our Adaptive Open Championship just down the road at number 6. This is a special place. It means a lot to the USGA. It means a lot to U.S. golf, and it's worth celebrating on a fairly regular basis. And that's what this anchor agreement's going to do.
Mike Whan is our guest, the CEO of the United States Golf Association. You guys probably saw that I opened the show today with the video that was sent to us by the USGA, because I am so excited about the U.S. National Development Program. Could you talk to us, Mike, about the concept? Why did you guys decide to do this, and how are things going right now?
Yeah, you know me well enough, Matt, to know this is a dangerous question, because I'm pretty passionate about this. I spent 12 years as the LPGA commissioner. And what I learned in my second or third year there fairly quickly is every woman on that tour, and I mean every woman on that tour, came out of a national country program except the Americans. And I remember talking to Lydia Ko about Team New Zealand when she was 12. And I remember at the end of a tour championship one year, Carlotta Segunda said, I said, "Are you flying home?" And she said, "No, I'm going to go meet with the Spanish golf team for a while and kind of share my insights." And the real breakthrough moment was me, as I was standing on a green, and I'll just say a top college coach said to me, why do you folks in America make it so hard to recruit an American to our college program? And I didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about college golf as the LPGA commissioner. I said, "What are you talking about?" And the coach said, "If I want to recruit a top Swedish player, do you know what I do?" And I said, "Well, I assume you fly to Sweden." And the coach said, "No, I fly to Scottsdale. I fly to team to the house of Team Sweden. They have a house of the best, I think it was 14-year-old Swedish golfers and girls, and a separate house in Scottsdale of the best 14-year-old Swedish boys. And in one trip, I can meet the best Swedish players in the world. I can walk a few holes with each of them. I can stand on the range, and I fly home, and I've decided which of the Swedish players I'm going to recruit." There's an Australian house in Orlando. There's a Spanish house. So I realized that these country programs are not only developing these young kids and getting them ready for their elite golf journey, but they were making it easy for coaches to find them and to be recruited and to learn about coaches and nutrition and stretching. And the only country not keeping up was us. And so listen, I'm a global guy. I was very proud of the globalness of the LPGA. But I was born in America, and by gosh, America is not going to fall behind in the race to create elite golfers. And so as soon as I got here, I said to the board, "Don't hire me if you're not ready to be part of this Team USA National Development Team, because we're bringing it. And if you're not on board with that, then I'm probably the wrong guy." But this is about catching up, not getting ahead. And so we're going to make sure that young players, no matter where they are, no matter where they come from, have the resources, the financial means, the coaching, the nutrition, stretching, D1 college coaches to make it to the next level, whatever that next level is. And shame on us in America for being a few decades behind, but it won't take us long to catch up. And our young players deserve it. The diversity of this game at age 12, Matt, is really unbelievable. And the diversity of this game at 21 is believable. It actually falls off pretty fast. And we can fix that. We do too much work to get great young players to love this game, to let them leave when it gets hard. And so together with a lot of huge partnerships, PGA of America, AJGA, LPGA, a lot of people helping us get there, but we're gonna make a country program that will ensure that the pipeline of America golf is strong for the next 30 years like it had been for the last 30.
All right, so you touched on a lot of things. We were talking about it relative to the U.S. National Development Program, but when you talk about retention, when you talk about diversity, when you talk about bringing people into the game, introducing people to the game, et cetera, This brings me to this point of for 2024, even though we're in May of 2024, what are the objectives of the USGA? What are these touchstones and how are you doing with them?
You on the national development team, Matt?
Just overall, USGA 2024, what
Okay.
are you guys hoping to accomplish? And now you've got a few months under your belt to try to figure it out. You know what I'm going to do, Mike? I'm going to ask you to hold in that because I know you and I know where we're going with all this stuff. And I know I got to get a commercial break in. So the Fairways of Life show will be back right after this. Lots of beautiful shots from Pinehurst. Pinehurst #2 will be hosting the U.S. Open coming up in just a few short weeks down the road. So, Dom, what was your question of the day today?
It's pretty simple. Have you ever been to Pinehurst? And I got to say, Matt, 79% so far are saying no. A travesty. A travesty.
That's a big opportunity then for Pinehurst and for the USGA. Mike Whan, the CEO of the USGA, is our guest. So, Mike, are there means of ticket availability to the U.S. Open right now through corporate hospitality or otherwise?
Yeah, they can go to usga.org and go to tickets. It's kind of makes me excited to think. I wish I could come to Pinehurst again for the very first time because it's an amazing experience. If you love the game, you're going to fall in love with the village of Pinehurst because the game just lives here. You know, it's in the DNA of the people and the place. So I'm excited if a lot of people get a chance to see Pinehurst, whether it's at the U.S. Open or come here just on your own golfing trip or just roll through the village. It really should be on anybody's bucket list. But if you're a golfer, shame on you. You got to cross this one off sooner than later.
And the beauty of it, too, with the USGA and the U.S. Open is that there's qualifying. There's qualifying going on right now. So you can be a part of the USGA if you are that good a player. And it kind of cuts through where we're at with the game right now and the politics and the opinions and the passions and et cetera, that if you want to be a part of the USGA, do it. Go out and qualify.
Yeah, it's called Open for a reason. I know there's a lot of championships called Open, but there is no Open like the U.S. Open. There's over 10,000 people currently in the process of trying to qualify. There's 156 spots, and usually about half of those spots are wide open. And so we don't allocate our open spots to a certain tour victory or certain tour presence. I mean, they're truly open spots. And if you can take it to one of our 109 qualifying sites in 44 different states, and then make it to 13 different final qualifying locations, would include England, Japan, and Canada, 10 U.S. sites. You can find your way into one of these spots, and that's really what makes it our national championship.
As one of the leaders in the game of golf, are you guys feeling pressure in terms of trying to figure out what you can do for live golfers and methods and pathways to access, or is the answer to say what you just gave? Qualifying's open to everybody.
Well, it's a little bit of both, Matt. I would say that I think a lot of people forget that the first live event happened the weekend before the U.S. Open in 2022, and a lot of players were suspended, and that's kind of where the frustrations and challenges came between professional men's golf, and everybody was wondering what's the U.S. Open going to do? What's the USGA going to do? And we said quite simply, if you've qualified for the U.S. Open, you're going to play in the U.S. Open, and I think set a pretty clear message early on. Last year, in 2023, I might not have my numbers exactly right, but I think 15 live players played at LACC. And of the 50 players that were called live players, that's 30% of their tour teed it up at LACC. I think this year, between the 7 or 8 players that already qualified through major wins, there's another 29 or 30 live players that are already exempt into final stage qualifying if they want to qualify. That's up to them, but nothing's stopping you from playing in the U.S. Open. Nothing ever has, and nothing ever will. So, and then I think back to your point about pathways. I think, we always thought, and maybe we've been wrong just like a lot of fans, we always thought that where this was going to net out, whatever it was going to net out, was close. And so let's make sure that we don't aim at a moving target. Let's figure out where LIV and where the PGA Tour, or European Tour, and the rest are going to settle. And now I think, 6 or 7 months later, it's still moving and difficult to assess. But I think when we get some settlement and we sort of understand the future, if they are separate entities, then yeah, I can certainly envision a pathway, no different than we provide a pathway at the DP World Tour. We provide a smaller pathway at Corn Ferry. So it's feasible for me. It's not necessary because we don't stop anybody from getting in, and our field isn't closed off. So, but I think even with that said, it wouldn't shock me that if things stay kind of the way they are today, and if that's the go forward plan, we'll take a look at, or at least some of our exempt categories as well.
It is interesting, Mike, when you look at the game of golf and the game of which you guys have a domain, and I'm talking about predominant, is what I call the 99.99%. That part of the game is absolutely booming. So while the men's highest tier professional tours are trying to find their path, and as you alluded to, they're working on that, the rest of the game is absolutely exploding. From the USGA's perspective, have you ever seen anything like this before? And coming out of the pandemic and the enthusiasm, the excitement, how is that impacting USGA programs? This goes back to my question about objectives, obviously, but how is that impacting the programs of retention and ensuring that we're making the game available to all people of all backgrounds? How is all that going?
I really appreciate you both asking the question and putting up the graphic that you did. I've said this literally in 1,000 interviews in the last 2 years. If we weren't arguing about where a few hundred millionaires are playing professional golf, and I understand that's an interesting story and it's controversial, and as a result, it kind of sucks a lot of oxygen out of the room. If we weren't arguing about that, we would have to be talking about the greatest golf boom in the history of the game. The fact that there's 13 more million people playing this game in the last 5 years is mind-boggling. And if either one of us would have been bold enough to say, Matt, 5, 6, 7 years ago, hey, what if this game could grow by 50% in 10 years? I don't think either of us would have probably believed it. And then if we could have been really bold, we'd have said, well, how about if all that growth generally comes from 3 segments: juniors, women, and people of color? I think we both would have looked at each other and said, well, that's a heck of a dream, but that isn't going to happen in our lifetime. And it's happened in the last 5 or 6 years. So what we're experiencing in the game is something we've never seen before. And I think when we took off in COVID in 2020, we were already kind of on an interesting growth plan heading into COVID. But I think I've heard this so many times on so many airplanes, like, well, it'll all come back to normal. And then 21 happened and it was up from 20. And then in 21, people said, yeah, but people are going to start going back to work. And then 22 happened, it was bigger than 21. And then 23 happened, it was bigger than 22. I think we have to get over ourselves and realize this is the new world order for the game. And it's really exciting. And that's where programs that we've been working on all across the board, whether it's about sustainability, whether it's about getting youth in the game, whether it's about inviting adults in the game, whether it's helping people transition from these incredible off-course experiences like Topgolf and PopStroke and Drive Shack to actually work their way onto an actual golf course. It's really an amazing time. If you went back just 10 years ago, when somebody played golf for the first time, less than 20% of them had ever swung a golf club before. And imagine teeing it up someplace and you'd never really swung a golf club. And today, 2/3 of the people that played the game for the very first time have played the game at an off-course experience. So their ability to understand the game, be excited about the game, and quite frankly, make contact with the ball is at a different level. And so that's what's really exciting. And the cool thing is we've gone from talking about how we're going to fill tee sheets to how we're going to find enough employees to help us manage both public and private golf courses all around the U.S. Great problem, but I mean, one of the things we talked about yesterday, Matt, is a real significant initiative we're doing here in Moore County in North Carolina to help provide more skilled laborers to golf courses, because amazingly, we're now facing a situation where we need more talent to come work on a golf course. And so one of the outcomes of the 2024 U.S. Open is going to be $1 million investment in that program.
You mentioned the word sustainability as well, and it pops into my mind even more so when you talk about employees to work on golf courses, et cetera. How are things going in that area, particularly in water usage, Michael, and particularly in the area of strains of grass, et cetera? What leadership is the USGA providing in those areas?
Yeah, we have a program, Matt, called 15, 30, 45. And what that means is in the next 15 years, we've committed to spend over $30 million to help any golf course reduce their water footprint by 45% or more. Now, not every golf course needs to reduce their footprint by 45%. I moved from Orlando, and I can tell you that Orlando doesn't have a water issue in the summer, or same in New Jersey. But there are certain parts of our country, and really there's a lot of places in the world that if we don't figure out water and the nutrient footprint, we're going to lose golf courses. We're going to lose golf courses to government takeovers and to low-income housing and to condominium complexes, simply because we can't be that kind of strain on the business. So, spending literally millions of dollars every year to research new turf grasses, new irrigation approaches, whether that's watering from the bottom up and drip irrigation, or GPS sprayers, or new turf grasses, as you talked about, are our commitment to make sure that, I've said this many times, but a lot of us play the game, love it, and don't really spend a lot of time thinking about the game 30 or 45 years from now. But that's our job at the USGA. Our job is to make sure that our kids' kids inherit a game that's better, more enjoyable, and more sustainable long-term than the game we inherited when we were kids. And so 15, 30, 45 is our way to say between research, on-course action, and efforts together with individual courses and individual regions of the world, we're going to find answers for those that need them. And, I would say maybe in the past, the USGA might have stopped at the research level. Like, here's the research, here's the white paper, and everybody go with that. But we've really taken that from research to in the ground over the last few years. And we're going to be committed to make sure that water or size of footprint or how much you're taking in terms of nutrients to put into the system is not going to be a limiting factor to the growth of this game, no matter where you play it.
But when we talk about sustainability, too, it's not always just about turf and water. It's also about these growth areas that Mike was talking about, and the fact that juniors, women, people of color, that we're reaching different groups that in the past, even if they had come into golf, the problem was retention. They weren't staying necessarily in the game. How are we doing with our forward look to look at it and go, I happen to agree with you, Mike, that I don't think this boom, so to speak, about the game of golf is something that's a blip. This is more about a discovery and people going, this is a really cool game. This is great for health. It's great for sociability. There's so many different reasons that it ticks those boxes. But how can we all collectively ensure that this growth and this health of the game at this level continues to expand?
Yeah, the best part about this growth, Matt, is that it's not just been good in terms of numbers and pie charts and USGA talking about what's happening in America. It's been good for the business of the game. If you went back to just 10 years ago, the percentage of golf facilities that would tell you that they were in dire financial need was about 25%. So we had a quarter of our facilities, of our stadiums in this game, telling us they were in trouble financially, and that number is now less than 5%. And so I think the good news is between golf courses, LPGA and PGA teaching professionals, and the staff that work at these facilities, this has been the answer. And so it's one thing to say, yes, we're going to be more receptive and receiving. It's another thing to realize that that your facility has got a huge upside. And that's why we're seeing such significant investments in both on and off course facilities, what it looks like to play it and what it looks like to drive in and actually and be at these facilities. And so it is returning itself. These members are coming in. They're generating revenue we haven't seen before. And that revenue, really excitedly, is being reinvested back into the game. And that kind of threshold is really exciting. I would tell you, Matt, that we've had some growth jumps like this before, but as an industry, we weren't very collaborative in terms of being ready for it. But today, when you talk about things like first tee and girls golf and drive, chip, and putt and youth on course, and we really, as an entity, are just more collaborative than we've been before, and have programs that are proven and can work. And so, now we've sort of proven on a small scale that we were ready for this kind of faucet turn on. In the past, we've seen the faucet go on before, but we didn't really know what to do with the flow, and that's been quite a bit of difference. And I credit a lot of different stakeholders in the game, because this used to be, hey, what's the PGA of America doing, or what's the PGA Tour, or the LPGA, or the USGA, and now it's really a we. What are we doing? What are we doing together with HBCUs? What are we doing together to actually bring women in at all ages to play? How are we going to make sure that the junior part of this game becomes the senior part of this game? And that's exciting to a 60-year-old guy who wants to make sure that this game is better in 60 years than it was when I got introduced to the game. If golf was a stock, you'd buy it, because all the indicators are pointing up.
Yeah, I love the way you just phrased that, because you do think about 5-10 years ago, if you asked the exact same question, if golf is a stock, would you buy it? I would have invested in the LPGA when you were there. I would have bought that stock. But the game at large, not so sure, because you and I have a very similar background from the equipment side to the green grass side. And on the green grass side, I love to see that it's expanding, and I really love to see that we've been able to crack open some of the gilded gates, even if in image, and welcome new people in the game and make them feel that they can stay there for as long as they want to and enjoy this game for a lifetime. It's healthy, isn't it? That's a look at golf. Now, bear in mind, this is the last reporting year. The We Are Golf Coalition is in Washington, D.C. this week to lobby the nation's politicians and make them understand how important the golf industry is to the American economy and more. And so you're going to see revised numbers coming out in just a couple of days or less. And, of course, we're going to share all those with you. Mike Whan, the CEO of the USGA, is sharing his thoughts and insights with us for 2024. Anything in terms of the 2024 agenda with the USGA that we haven't touched on yet, Mike, that you want to make sure you mention?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be doing my CEO job if I didn't take your opportunity to answer your question about our objectives. I would say, Matt, probably a lot of listeners are like I was when I walked into the USGA for the first time. I knew of the USGA. I knew their broad kind of touch of the game, but I probably couldn't have described it. I probably couldn't have told you what the USGA does. So you know me, I'm not that smart. So I created a phrase where I changed the letters USGA to Unify, Showcase, Govern, and Advance. And that's really how I remember our elements of touching this game. So we unify the game. And what do I mean by unify? Handicapping, world handicapping system, course ratings, GIN app, all designed to make sure that you can play this game with anybody, anywhere, anytime. Now over 100 countries, all in the same on the same handicapping system. You know, 3 million plus people here just in the States using the GIN app every day. We showcase the game, 15 national championships, plus some team events as well. But whether it's men, women, amateurs, pros, teams, individuals, players with disabilities, we have a championship that you can aspire to. We govern the game. Obviously, we govern the game with rules and equipment. If there's a piece of equipment in your garage or in your bag, it probably came through the USGA and the RNA to be approved to the standards of golf today. And then we advance the game, where we talked about 15, 30, 45, the national development team, changing the face of the game long term. Those are all parts to make sure the game is better in 30 or 60 years. With regards to 2024, Matt, it's a pretty cool year for us. When we come to Pinehurst in a few weeks and play the 124th U.S. Open, it will be the 1,000th, that's easy to say for me, 1,000th time the USGA has teed up a championship since we began in 1895. Wow. And we'll leave here and we'll go to Newport Country Club, where we played the #1 championship back in 1895, and we'll play 1,001 with the U.S. Senior Open at Newport. So we're going to kind of come full circle. By the way, in 1895, when we started the U.S. Open, it was 11 competitors. They played four 9-hole rounds all in one day. The winner won $150. And so things have changed a bit. You know, now there's 10,000 people trying to make it to Pinehurst. And if you miss the cut, you make $12,000, because we really believe that making it into the 156 is the cut. So if you make it into the U.S. Open, you'll be paid even if you go home on Saturday. So a lot to be excited about as it relates to this year. I'm pretty excited about Hazeltine hosting the U.S. Am and Southern Hills hosting the Women's Am. I think two really cool amateur facilities. They're going to have a ton of fans out there. So I don't know if it's our 1000th championship, the 25-year anniversary of Payne Stewart's putt on 18. But all of these things make 2024 pretty exciting for the game, which is exploding right now.
There's no doubt about that. It is exciting. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk, too, about the equipment technology and the perspective of the USGA and the RNA going out 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and making sure that you guys are caretakers of the game. Where are you at right now with all of that? What are you hearing?
Yeah, so, I always tell people there's only 5 simple concepts you have to understand for distance. Whether or not you agree on the outcome of those 5 is up to you. But number 1, distance has increased over the long run, especially at the highest end of distance, about a yard a year. So from 1960 to 2040 yards, and from 2000 to 2023 at the same pace. Now, a yard a year is kind of like an eroding beach line. There's never a year where you go, oh my gosh, what happened? But over the course of 30, 40 years and 30 or 40 yards, it's quite a challenge. The second thing you have to understand, and this is just a fact, is the future is faster. If you go to a junior am, if you go to the US Am, if you go to a Walker Cup, we test balls currently at 176 miles an hour coming off the face of a club. And that's not fast enough when you're talking about the highest level of the game. And so 176 has long been passed by the future of this game, the people that are going to be here in 5 and 10 and on top of this game for a long time. Third thing you have to understand is governance is hard. When we announced our changes for 2028 and 2030, about half my email said, I can't believe you're implementing that change. And about half my email said, I can't believe that's all the change you're implementing. And maybe sometimes that compromise is where we have to live in, which is people that really understand the game over the last 50 and 60 years are concerned about the next 50 or 60. They might be concerned about the next 5 years or 10 years, but if you're not concerned about the next 20 or 30 years, then you're just a kick the can down the road kind of individual, and let them figure it out when we get there. And that's not where we are. Between the RNA and the USGA, we're unbiased. We're not connected to anybody. Nobody pays our bills. We don't have any ball and club contracts, so that we can do what we think is right for the game. And in the end, we try our best to listen to the industry, which is the hard part. You really have to listen to everybody. And the outcome that we came to, which was an across-the-board change where we'll test the ball at a faster speed than we're testing it today. 20 years ago, we adjusted that speed to where it is today, and now 20 years later, we're adjusting that speed to more relevant. It'll have an impact at the highest level of the game, somewhere in the 10-yard range, for the average tour player, somewhere in the 3 to 5 range for the average male player. Virtually no change, no matter who we're talking about, from kind of 5-iron down. And I think for a lot of players, you simply won't see a change at all. If you're somebody that's struggling with distance today or having a hard time making it to the fairway in the first place, and you're using the right ball, odds are that ball is going to be the same ball available to you in 28 or 30, because about 30% of the golf ball models that have been approved by the USGA would still be approved in 2028. And so, yes, it's going to cause change. I'm not going to lie to you and say this doesn't cause some sort of turmoil we have to get through. But the alternative to a little bit of turmoil to work through over a couple of years, to essentially say to future generations of this game, just figure it out. You'll have to build 8,500-yard golf courses, and we'll have fewer golf courses in certain parts of the world that simply can't sustain at those levels. That would be us not doing our job. And so, yes, when you're in the governance business, it's hard. But the only thing worse than actually making real governance choices is not making them, and just simply wasn't willing to be the latter of those two.
Are you at a point, Michael, where you, the USGA and the RNA, do you have the ball, or are you still trying to decide the exact chemistry, the formula that you want?
That's a good question, Matt, and I think a good misnomer to clear up. We don't make product at the USGA, so we're not concocting a golf ball that we're going to give to manufacturers and say, this is it. We never have, and really, at least while I'm here, we never will. So we don't make golf clubs. We don't make, but we set the standards by testing what they do make. So all that's changed is for manufacturers in the business, we've said, here's how we're going to test golf balls for conformance starting in 2028. And if your ball wants to be conforming, it's going to have to pass these criteria. Those criteria have been tweaked versus where they are today. By the way, we tweaked them in 1975, and we did it again in 2002, and now we're going to do it again in 2028. So it's not completely abnormal. But what I would tell you is, once we set the standard, once we say here's the yardstick by which you'll be tested, how different manufacturers get up to the edge of that yardstick will be different, as it is today. So some golf balls will have higher spin, some golf balls will have lower spin, different feels. They'll figure out how they want to get there on their own. And quite frankly, some manufacturers have multiple versions that can all achieve that. So yeah, we're not Major League Baseball. We're going to create a ball and say this is the official ball and everybody plays it. We simply set standards, as we do with wedges and with drivers and everything else. And then the manufacturers have the freedom to innovate within that space. What I would tell you, Matt, on your question is we're already receiving prototypes from manufacturers asking us to test against those. I don't think, and I don't think they think, those are finished prototypes. That's how the R&D process works. But I know that there are already manufacturers producing balls that they want us to evaluate relative to those new standards, which tells me that thousands of engineers are already off and running. And if I know anything about the golf business, I know that there'll be incredible innovation between now and 2028.
Was the mentality, Mike, that we wanted to stay sacrosanct with one set of rules for everybody? I mean, what I'm getting to there is, when you guys first introduced the concept to us, the idea was that this isn't going to impact what you called the recreational golfer. It's about golf at an elite level. But now the proposal is, as I understand it, it's pretty much everybody. What happened with that divide there? How did we cross that bridge?
Yeah, I always talk about leading in a huddle, Matt, which is we're going to try at the USGA and the RNA to lead in huddle, which means we're going to try to bring the industry together in a huddle and have a conversation. Now, at the end of the day, somebody's got to be the coach and the quarterback and make the call. But when you lead in a huddle, you get a lot of feedback, and you have to decide if you're going to listen to that feedback or not. And we were pretty serious about a model local rule that could be implemented at kind of elite competition, U.S. amateurs, Walker Cups, tour events, et cetera, where ball speeds and elite performance is pretty high. And when we led in a huddle and we went out and said, here's what we're thinking, the feedback was I wouldn't say it was universal. We never really had everybody say the same thing on any of our proposals along the way. But it was pretty loud and strong. And I would say it was definitely in the majority of, please don't separate what's being played at the highest level of game and what's being played at the recreational game. And I think even when the people were giving us that feedback, they realized, I remember saying to a couple of pretty high level stakeholders, you realize that if I listen to that feedback, I have to create a ball across the board. And if I create a ball across the board, I'm not going to go as far in terms of slowing a ball down or having a distance impact, because I'm not willing to have real impact to the recreational game. The impact we're talking about today on the recreational game will be as simple as picking up your white tees, walking up 6 yards, and putting them back down, and you're fine. But I think they knew that. I think they really believed in keeping the game away from a bifurcated role. So we I wouldn't say that we were all on board with that feedback. But if you're going to lead in the huddle and you're going to ask for feedback, then you're going to have to take it all in. And the number one piece of feedback we heard through this process was, no matter what you do, please try to keep the game unified under the same set of performance equipment rules. I don't know that we'll always be there, because at some point we might have to cross that bridge, but we believed we could make a meaningful difference over the long term of the game, and have almost zero impact for the overwhelming amount of amateurs in the game through this situation. So yeah, we had to show our cards through this process. And at one stage, and when we showed our hand, it was much more focused on a model local rule, or a ball really designed at one level that was going to be different than the average amateur ball. But we really got significant pushback on that, and quite frankly, and listened to that feedback and made a different decision because of that feedback.
Mike Whan is the CEO of the United States Golf Association, with the vision, with the hard work that it takes to do a very, very comprehensive and at times a very difficult job as well. It's the reason why he calls the USGA for the acronym Unify, Showcase, Govern, and Advance. Last question I have for you, Mike, is how can we, all of us collectively, people that are watching us around the world and from coast to coast, how can we help the USGA in your objectives?
I would say three things, Matt. I mean, first is embrace what's happening. I was just giving a talk at a local, I wouldn't say local, but local to where I live, local country club. And during the Q&A, one of the guys who was probably my age started complaining about he couldn't get his 7:15 tee time on Saturday and Sunday that he's been able to get for 26 years because there's so many more people playing the golf course. And I kind of interrupted him right in the beginning. I said, "You're the problem." And he kind of stopped for a second. I said, "You're the problem. Like, you either want this game to be bigger, better, and different, or you don't. If you want it to be your game and just your backyard, join a different club, that only has under 50 members, and that's the situation. But I want the game to embrace my wife. I want the game to embrace my kids. I want the game to look and feel more like America. And as a result, I'm going to embrace that change." So the first is, is make a difference in your own local course. Second is, if you believe the game has changed your life. I know it's changed mine. I was a 13-year-old bunker boy working on a grounds crew that turned into a greens cutter and a fairway cutter until I graduated from college. And I really believe the game taught me lessons that the classroom didn't. Listen, I like books as much as anybody, but I believe this game taught me ethics and a code of values that I wouldn't have received just because of the schools I went to. And as a result, I give back to this game, like I give back to colleges, because I believe college shape people. And so if you believe that the game has shaped you and can shape the future of this game, give back. It doesn't have to be the USGA. It could be the PGA of America, PGA Tour, LPGA. It could be to any one of the many foundations, the billions of dollars that the game gives back through the game. But if you believe the game shapes lives and shaped a little bit of yours, make it part of your giving. And then the last thing I would say is play the game beyond the game that you know. Meaning, this game's big enough for different kind of formats and different kind of trip. Come to Pinehurst, play an alternate shot, go play a team format, play in a mixed scramble. But get out of your comfort zone a little bit, because you're going to realize this game is so much bigger and so much better than just the only game you might have played for the last 10 or 15 years. And so that's why I talk about all these confusions about what's going on in men's professional golf and everything else. I say many times, whether we consolidate or don't consolidate, this game is so much bigger than what a couple of tours are going to do or not going to do. And we've proven that. Despite all of this interruption, the game is on fire like it's never been before. And so I'm excited. And if you're excited and if you love the game, make a difference. Make a difference locally, make a difference nationally, and be a part of kind of a game that's bigger than you.
It's awesome to believe, to give back, and to play beyond. Very sound advice for all of us to help the game of golf and help the objectives of the United States Golf Association. Remember that give back also involves time and commitment and passion, and that's the exact thing that we just got from Mike Whan. And again, Unify Showcase Govern in Advance, USGA. Mike, it's always great to catch up with you. I kind of feel like it's your state of the golf union speech, and it's fun for all of us to know what you guys are working on, what your objectives are, why you're doing them, and how they're making an impact. And for all of that, for you and for everyone involved at the USGA, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. What you do is important for the game as well. So I'm proud to be able to call you a friend. I'm glad I was able to join your show.
Likewise, my friend.